Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Michael Whitman, and I wanted to let you know that I just am getting back into making videos. I've been in private practice as a licensed clinical psychologist for a long time, I think almost 20 years, and working out of my Beverly Hills office. So I wanted to share some of the things I've learned along the way, as well as my training, which was maybe 6 years before that. So, in the past 26 years, what have I learned? One of the big things I've learned is how to deal with narcissists. And I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview about narcissism, where it comes from, and how to cope. Now, actually, I don't see that many narcissists in my private practice because they tend to not go to therapy. They tend to externalize blame and think they are good or fine all the time and don't need help. So this is more based on my research, experiences of patients, and experience in my own life. So personal life. So there you go. And I would like to first go over the term. Narcissism comes from the Greek mythology character Narcissus. Narcissus was a very attractive man, and he was told that, he knew that, but it became his downfall. He went to a pond or lake and looked at his reflection as in a mirror and became enthralled even more so with his looks, and to the point where he eventually cost him his life, and he dissolved, I think, into a flower in flames or something over time. So he sort of melted away. And it's a good lesson in that too much narcissism is very detrimental. Some narcissism, psychologists say there's healthy narcissism, which is you want to feel good about yourself, about how you conduct yourself, some of your strengths, and like yourself, feel that you have something to offer the world. This narcissism that we're talking about today is considered part of a personality disorder or traits of a personality disorder where it goes simply too far and hurts the people around them, especially, as well as hurting them. Okay, the narcissist developed usually because of childhood. At least that's the psychodynamic theory which I largely use. Meaning, when they were young, their parents usually didn't treat them with the right caring. In other words, they abused them and made them feel really bad, or they overinflated them and said, "You're the greatest thing that ever lived. You're the most special human being on the planet." And so the child developed an inflated sense of ego from the compliments, or as a defense against the insults. Sometimes the kid gets a nasty combination of both, where he's both abused and told he's the greatest thing ever. So he has narcissism developing from both sides of it. Okay, so you have a little bit of a sense of where it comes from. Now, dealing with a narcissist. How do I deal with the narcissist in my life? My partner or my parent, whatever, is narcissistic. So that means they're going to use techniques on you that you're going to have to handle. If you think of it as a defense, the narcissistic defense, I think sometimes that makes it easier. The narcissist is trying to protect themselves by putting themselves one up on everybody, or the greatest, or better than everybody, because they feel if they're not, then they're small and worthless. That's the other side of the narcissistic coin, where they deflate and feel of no value. So they don't have a kind of any middle ground. So obviously, one of the best techniques to deal with somebody who's putting you down or trying to one-up you is setting boundaries. Now that means you may have to remove yourself from the relationship entirely, to some degree, a large degree. I like the term doses. You take them in small doses, like if it's a family member that you're going to see at certain events. And I think that what you don't want to do is sort of take the bait or get into it, try to change them, try to get emotional. That is playing into their hands. That's when they have you, and they know it. And in a sense, you probably know it too, because they've thrown you off your normal kind of self that's usually steadier. So I would not get too emotional. I would try to remain calm. And, I like the term stoic. Stoic is a good philosophy which involves a lot of acceptance. You accept that this person is a certain way, you can't change them. Now, what's the best way to deal with them? Okay, so the best way to deal with them is to remain calm and strong. In other words, you don't want to sort of be weak and need their approval and be needy, because that gives them all the power. So I wouldn't try to go to the hardware store for milk. That's the expression where you go to the wrong sources for love and support. You're going to need to get that from other people that are more reliable and supportive and nurturing. So the narcissist may give it to you sometimes and then may, kind of bludgeon you the next time, and it's unpredictable, or withdraw another time, or pump themselves up a lot of times. So I wouldn't go to the narcissistic person for a lot of milk. Okay. Boundaries, like I've said, you want to, have good boundaries. And I would be aware of their manipulative tendencies, such as gaslighting. Gaslighting is they mess with your sense of reality. And that might be, they say something that hurt you and probably would hurt a lot of people, let's say, and you say, I have a reaction. They say, oh, you're just too sensitive. So then they blame you for having a feeling. And that's one of the old techniques of a narcissist, is to gaslight. You're just too sensitive. You just make things too much about you. You don't know how to, whatever it is, So a lot of you statements. You statements tend to be blaming and aggressive. I statements tend to be assertive, especially when followed by a feeling. So they don't use a lot of assertive behavior, they use more aggressive behavior. You can use more assertive behavior in your life and in dealing with them, which is, I feel I don't like this. I would prefer this. I need to leave. I would like to change the topic. I'm not comfortable talking about this. I don't necessarily agree with what you're saying, whatever it is. So you statements, I statements, assertive versus aggressive. These kind of give you a feel for it. It takes some practice to be more assertive, just like any skill. It's actually called assertive training, or assertive skills training. So you learn to, speak up for yourself, to not be a doormat, but also not to engage in an aggressive fight, because that's only going to harm you and not help the situation. And a lot of times people who are dysregulated or sort of have emotional turmoil like it, because now you've given them some action. And so sometimes the narcissist or certain emotional dysregulated people will even be envious if you seem relatively serene and okay with yourself, and they may try to rile you up with a comment or insult. And so your job is to remain serene and calm and not take the bait. So I think that is the person. If you see debates with presidents or on TV, it's often the person who remains calm who's perceived as the winner, and the one who gets angry and emotional is perceived as the loser. So I think most of us kind of have that sense that it's important to keep yourself together. And if you have these painful emotions about something they said or gaslit you or insulted you, you could take that later on to a therapist, to somebody you trust who's not narcissistic so much, and work it through. But they're not the person to try to get the milk from again. All right, well, I hope some of these ideas can help you deal with the narcissists in your life, if you have them. And, number one thing, I think, is to protect yourself. And it's okay to not trust people, but you don't want to hold on to resentment, because the resentment will only harm you. So it's maintaining that I'm going to protect myself, but I'm also not going to be full of anger and resentment about their behavior. Just like I wouldn't get mad at a pigeon for pooping in the street and get all angry. I would just avoid the street where they just pooped in, and I wouldn't go yelling at the pigeon to change. So it's the same idea as you can't change other people, but you can protect yourself better. And that's, I think, the larger idea here. I hope this helped and that you're doing well.